My first spoonfuls of gray goo were surprisingly tasty. I hadn't realized how hungry I was for a polished, traditional real-time strategy game not made by Blizzard. Developer Petroglyph's outside-the-box faction design left me with an odd aftertaste regarding balance and competitive play, but it definitely hit the spot. The linear chronicle of this conflict between humans, aliens called the Beta, and self-replicating nanobots known as the Goo plays out across 15 campaign missions, 5 for each faction. It's presented with a generous helping of cutscenes that, while not always action-packed, stand beside the genre's best in terms of character animation and voice acting. The selfless leader of the Beta, Saruk, and the human allied AI, Singleton, are notably complex and likable, even if their arcs do closely mirror elements of StarCraft. The action on the battlefield is a familiar song and dance to the RTS faithful, but the faction design is impressively asymmetrical. The standout is the Goo, a completely mobile swarm with no need for a permanent base. A mother Goo can suck up resources from the map or enemies it comes into contact with and then move on, meaning they're never required to stay in one place to maintain an optimal economy. This makes the Goo probably the most unconventional race I've ever played with in an RTS. It's almost impossible to predict where a Goo player's units are coming from unless you have vision of every resource node on the map. Mother Goos can be used offensively as well, sneaking across otherwise inaccessible cliff faces and right onto your doorstep, where they can spit out units and start digesting your base as a melee-range siege weapon. However, micromanaging multiple mobile, vulnerable base Goos while also trying to conduct battle on multiple fronts actually puts the Goo at a distinct logistical disadvantage in the late game. This is a major finesse-style faction that only the best multitaskers will be able to handle effectively. Your opponent will be equally frustrated in a match against the Goo that runs the clock up, but for different reasons. A Goo player who has lost a decisive battle can easily turn the next 20 minutes into a frustrating hunt for the last few remaining mothers slinking around the map. Imagine if floating Terran buildings in StarCraft 2 could continue to collect resources and produce units while mobile, and didn't require a command center to remain hidden, and you might get some sense of the problem. The ambitious faction design creates concerns with the humans too. All their structures must be connected with a network of low hit point power conduits, which forces some interesting base layout planning, but the downside is that almost every map includes ramps and other obstacles that keep you restricted to a small region. This means that the late game involves a lot of long distance mining, forcing you to protect harvesters coming and going from far afield. The ability to teleport structures and turrets anywhere on the network is handy, but if the network is broken, everything loses power. It makes human bases extremely vulnerable, and recovery from losing a battle on your own turf near impossible. The Beta, meanwhile, can build anywhere on the map, have arguably the best defensive structures, and don't need to worry about conduit power. They even have the best of the 3 game-ending super units, the Hand of Rook, which acts as a mobile factory and mounts smaller units aboard for additional firepower. It's possible that the Beta feels so much more potent because they behave the most like a traditional RTS faction that we're used to, but I'd expect the early days of Grey Goo multiplayer to be dominated by these guys until the pros work out viable strategies to take them down. Outside that, the only major flaws in Grey Goo's polish were occasional crashes to desktop, which seemed to be brought on by a sensitivity to alt-tabbing. Grey Goo is likely the best traditional RTS not made by Blizzard in the past 5 years. The cinematic, exciting presentation of the campaign is a big selling point by itself, even if the mission structure and actual scenarios are less than revolutionary. Despite my high-level balance concerns, I know I'll get a lot more enjoyment out of casual play against friends with its 3 very different, if not very fair, playable factions. This Goo sticks. For more on Grey Goo, keep it on IGN.